So, in order to create a robot that has the capability to aid the crew in the ways that I've suggested, we first went after creating a system that moved like the crew, had the same speeds, the same joint motions. If you want to create a robot that interacts with the crew with the same tools and the same workspaces and the same hardware, in the end you're going to design a system that looks very similar to a person. And so you're going to have an anthropomorphic system that looks much like a person. So we see this technology with trying to create a robot or a system that moves kinematically and at the same velocity, has some of the same strength, endurance, or actually exceeds the strength and endurance of a human. And so here we'll show you a little demonstration of showing a robot that has that kind of capability. And all this goes to telling a very intricate story, which is, in the end, like I said earlier, you want to create a robot or a robot system that works well with people. Well, along the way you need certain building blocks. And like I said, creating a system that has similar speeds was the first part of that building block. We have a little fun with the robot, but so this kind of gives you an idea of the kind of. Actually, we took out most of the matrix sequence because management didn't like it, but we kind of pared it down. And at 2 in the morning, it's kind of interesting. But this kind of shows you what kind of workspace the robot encompasses. It's a very similar workspace that you and I have. Again, we felt that was very important. So the motions, the inherent motions, the intrinsic motion that the robot's able to produce matches that of a human quite nice. It actually has a lot more range of motion than a human does. For example, I can't turn my wrist 360 degrees, but it can. I can't turn my neck all the way around. I probably could, but they'd have to replace me soon after that. But this robot can. But another key ingredient to creating this human-robotic partnership that will be successful is you need a certain amount of dexterity. And so we really went after the hand design on this robot. What separates this robot among a lot of other robots for this particular class is the amount of motion, the amount of dexterous motion, the amount of range of motion that our fingers has, the ability to manipulate those objects, and the kind of grasp forces that we can create on those objects. And so that really is a key discriminator that you don't necessarily see in other robots of this similar weight class. And that weight class is very important. Like I said, we wanted to create a robot that had a similar size and shape as a human. It's a little on the larger side. The biceps are smaller than the largest recorded size that Arnold gave when he was winning Mr. Universe. And it has the wingspan that's less than Yao Ming. So it falls within human data, albeit on the larger side of human data. But so, like I said, we've built up this range of motion story. We've got this dexterity motion. So then we have to tackle what those key ingredients are to working close and safe with people. And so this manipulator is very different from a lot of other robots that you might come in contact with. It's not a positionally controlled manipulator. In industrial robotic systems like painting robots, welding robots, general assembly robots for manufacturing line pick and place machines, they're very highly precise positioning devices. But what comes with that is this inability to control contact dynamics or contact forces really well. And so what we have done is we've created a really soft and loose system. So this robot has intrinsic force sensing that's also a compliant member, or a member that flexes around a lot, that we measure the torques and the forces that it creates. So what that allows us to do, it allows us to act like more of what a human does. So I'm a real floppy system, but I can also be a real stiff system at the same time. And so we can vary that stiffness in this robot just the same way that a human does. And this is very important for doing real work, because when you do an activity, you at times are stiff and you at times are loose, depending on what you're doing. And so if I come out here, the palm has and you can see it kind of rebounding, like the spring motion, and So it has a certain stiffness to it, but I can vary that stiffness in 3D space. I can also vary what part of the robot manipulator I choose to be how stiff. For example, the elbow isn't nearly as stiff as the palm is. And so when I am doing assembly activities or construction activities, this is a very key feature to doing work really well. So positional robots don't do the round peg and the round hole trick well, because if they're off ever so slightly, they build up gigantic contact forces. So what this allows us to do is using this type of technology is to feel that peg into the hole. And actually, it's a little counterintuitive, but you actually get the task done a lot quicker, more successfully, and a lot safer. So you can, it's okay. So you can feel the rebound. Just push right on the palm here, and you can feel, yeah, pull it towards you. You can feel how hard it is to pull towards. That's good. That's good. Thank you. And then pull on the elbow here, and you can feel that it's fundamentally. Yeah, go ahead and pull it out. So you can feel that it's not nearly as stiff as the palm is.
Right.
Now we'll stiffen that up, and you can see that now it's a lot harder to pull out.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. So that type of technology also allows us to create another important building block with humans and robots, which is safety, of course. And so I can give you this presentation, and if this was a big factory robot that had a big painting device that was going to paint a car frame on down the line, you would see a gigantic light curtain. You would see, a cage that they wouldn't let you anywhere near. That if you were an intruder into that cage, a big steel frame would come down. You'd be put in handcuffs because you'd be worried about getting killed. And I'm going to stand out of this way because the speed of the arm still looks pretty quick, right? And these are 50-pound arms, and if I got hit with that with some significant velocity, if I was up against a hard object, it's going to hurt. It could theoretically break a bone. It could. So now, having solved that, I'm going to stand right here, continue giving the presentation, and what you're going to see is I can stop the action of the manipulator just effortlessly, And so that allows us to interact with the robot shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, while we're doing our assembly tasks, and not have too much concern about the robot bumping into us. When you're working next to someone, it is commonplace to bump into that person, because we're big, compliant, floppy systems, and you don't worry about breaking your elbow by accidentally touching someone, right? Well, we need to keep that same sort of idea as we build robots that interact with people. And so this is that type of technology and that type of safety is absolutely imperative in moving forward to creating these systems that are viable for human-robotic partnerships. What you do with all that is you do work. And so that's another very key difference that discriminates this robot from some other robots that you might see on YouTube, doing fancy dance moves and playing trumpets and violins and conducting symphonies and whatnot. This robot was designed from the ground up to manipulate light objects. And in particular, what robots haven't done well previously is manipulate objects that aren't spatially deterministic. When you have a blanket, for example, or a mylar fabric, or a cloth, or something that's covering something you'd like to get to, you first have to remove it. And that's actually a big problem on the space station right now. Is a lot of these orbital replacement units. In fact, even the robotic replaceable units are covered with a fabric first that has to be removed before that the robot can replace the item. And so it would have been better, in my opinion, to create a robot that had the capability to remove the fabric to begin with. And so we'll demonstrate that to you here. But again, blankets are bad because you just don't, it's not a rigid object. And so you don't have, it's not easily understood as to where the object is going to be in space. So there's an envelope under it. So not only is a blanket a floppy object, but so is an envelope. And another important aspect is being able to use the robot and use the sensors that are available to it. So this robot right now is performing some machine algorithms on this envelope, waiting for me to take it from it. So you have to embed a certain amount of intelligence into the robot system in order for it to be a usable product. Right? So you're going to see payloads on the single kilogram level, you know, one or two kilos. And what we're able to do, actually, I'd like my lovely assistant to come out here with the weight. And, he's actually volunteer. Yeah. Or we could use a volunteer. Okay, that's what I thought. So pound for pound, this robot doesn't have as much strength capability as a human being. Muscles are very well engineered devices for how much they weigh. And it's going to be a while until we have actuation devices that rival the strength of a human. However, one advantage that we have over humans is we have an endurance level, or robots have an endurance level that far exceeds humans. And I'll attempt to demonstrate a little bit of that right now. So we're going to do a weightlifting demo. This is 20 pounds. And we're going to show you that the robot's able to manipulate it around with relative ease, but we're also going to put it in configurations that everyone knows, and while you're watching this, are going to be rather painful. And so that'll kind of highlight the idea that I'm trying to express. So that hand in particular is a hand that can manipulate a blanket. It can handle an envelope, and it can also hold 20-pound weight. And so this part's pretty easy, right? I mean, it's just standard. You just get in the gym, you pick up your dumbbells, you start doing some curls, right? You kind of feel it burn a little bit, but you're still feeling pretty good about yourself. And then you see, like, you know, this cute person across the way, you want to start showing off a little bit. And so you, So Adam's a pretty big guy, right? And so Adam's a pretty big guy, and he can manipulate the weight fine, but when we pause for dramatic effect, it's very painful for Adam to keep going. And I won't kill him, so let's keep going before we take him to the hospital with a hernia. And just to show you that, yes, we don't have actuators that can lift as much as Adam can for how much Adam weighs, but without any effort, we can exceed his endurance level. And that's a very important point, is that robots tend to do things really, really well that we don't. In the end, we've got to create devices that are pleasant to be around and that are friendly for people to interact with. And so I'm going to give the robot a handshake because it did a really good job today. But actually, I'll introduce this. Again, this handshake also highlights a few of the other technologies that I was speaking about earlier. The robot's going to sense the force of me gripping the hand, and when I initiate a handshake, just kind of when you walk up to someone and you initiate a handshake, somebody starts pumping first, right? And so you kind of get this leader-follower action that kind of starts, and so. And it's a hand, but you know that technology, that intrinsic technology that allows it to kind of feel, you know, that allows it to kind of understand the forces that are being imparted on it and the forces that are imparted on the environment is the core of the system.